Welcome to M&S, everybody. I'm Will.
And I'm Matt, and Will needs to sound more enthused, so do that again.
Welcome to M&S, everybody.
No, that's not going to work. Try harder. Or let Tony do it. Let Tony handle it.
I wish they would have let Tony handle it. SHR would be in a much better place if they did. Let me tell you that.
Oh, you get to go crazy on that
Yeah,
later.
I'll go crazy later. Look, you break down the race because, as per usual, I was at work and I didn't get to watch it live. I thought I was about to get to watch the end of it, but apparently I don't
No.
get nice things.
All right. So since Will is going to go off at the end of this episode, I'm going to get this out of the way so I'm not yelled at by Will live on the broadcast. Thank our sponsors. Go follow Bricasso on Instagram. Go watch Milan's show. Go follow Terrell at Grateful Studios, his clothing brand, and go watch Ken's YouTube. And give Will some enthusiasm because he just doesn't have enough of it. All right, before we get into the cup race, we're gonna look
No,
at
wait, hold
the.
on. No, it's like that. You ever seen that meme where it's like the Facebook thing where it's like somebody, it's like the profile picture and someone's like, a smile would be nice. And he goes, nothing in my life to smile about.
Smile for the audience. Smile for the audience. I'll go with. Okay. No. It's not a smile. I'm not seeing any
You're
teeth.
not a smile.
All right. So, last week I neglected to mention. I don't know that anybody cares, but Corey Heim won the truck race at North Wilkesboro. I don't think Will cared either. Oh, did you care?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Corey Haim's a great driver. I just could not care less.
Also, I'm gonna bring up the ARCA series this week in Charlotte because they actually put on a good race for the first time since 2006. Congratulations, Tanner Gray won his first ever NASCAR sanctioned event. Speaking of NHRA drivers, there's one behind you. But that's not a bad thing. He's trying a different discipline of racing. All right, so Nick Sanchez won his second career truck race at Charlotte, stealing one away from Corey Heim, and the crazy Xfinity race at Charlotte. Oh yeah, Chase Elliott went to victory lane. Also, just the update incident from that race, Austin Hill intentionally wrecked Cole Custer under caution, but controversially, this morning he was not suspended. He was only docked 25 points and fined
Whoa. I didn't see
$50,000.
that come through. He didn't get suspended?
No, and he was actually fined less than Ricky Stenhouse was. So Austin Hill will be racing in Portland. Yes, the Xfinity Series is going to Portland while the rest of the field goes to Gateway. And then also one more race I want to touch on. We don't normally do this, but Joseph Newgarden won his second straight
Oh,
in the race of the weekend. And our boy Kyle Larson from the NASCAR world finished 18th, was running sixth before a speeding penalty, but got the lead laps and show his stuff and let him know that NASCAR was there.
yeah,
All right.
I snuck away from work for a little while to be able to watch the last like 20 or so laps of the Indy 500. Uh, yeah, just simply never disappoints. I wish I could sit down and watch the full thing. Hopefully, fingers crossed, next year I'll be able to. But um, that was peak sports television. I don't think it gets much better than especially the waning laps. Uh, I'll be honest with you. I wanted Newgarden to win just solely because I was like, he might go into the crowd again. That's really cool. But man,
He
feel
did.
for Pato Award. Uh, that was gut wrenching to watch because again they have the two side not side by side shots, but it's Newgarden and he's fist pumping, he's screaming, and then they cut to the in car of Pato Award and it's just silent, and then you just hear him finally say, "I tried my best, guys," while choking back tears, and then Pato will get his someday. I really hope. But wow, yeah, that was awesome, and it even got my hopes up for the Coke 600 because I don't know. I
You mean
kind of
the Coca-Cola 373.5?
Well, at the time, I thought it might go 600 miles. So no,
Whoa,
smarty
whoa,
pants.
whoa. Well, I think you need a smile. I think you need some soda cookies.
Nothing in my life to smile about.
All right, so on to the Coca-Cola
I've got
373.
plenty in my life to smile about, by the way. I just want to make that clear. I'm just doing a little bit.
Go fix the closet. All right, so on to the Coca-Cola 373.5. Um, sorry, I just want to keep this running joke that it's a euphemism, even though it's not.
It's not a
Um,
euphemism.
all right, so Ty Gibbs won the pole for this race. And he would lead the first 74 laps. And you're thinking maybe today's the day. We've had several drivers win their first race at the Coca-Cola 600, not the Coca-Cola 373.5, including big names like Austin Dillon and Matt Kenseth. But so Ty Gibbs was running
Bobby
off in
Labonte.
height.
Bobby
Keep going.
Labonte did it as well.
Keep going.
Another big name driver that won their first race in the 600.
If you can name one more, you get a clap. I'll clap for you.
No, I don't think he won his first race in the 600. He might have. Did Jeff?
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. I was gonna say I thought Jeff might have.
Okay, so then William Byron would chase down Ty Gibbs and take the lead away from him before Ryan Blaney would slam the wall, defending winner of this race and defending champion, relegating him to basically a last place finish. He would only beat the NY racing car of JJ Yaley, who had mechanical issues. Yeah, power steering broke on lap 2 for poor JJ Yaley. Actually, it was mechanical issues, and they did not get a single lap of practice. Please, NY Racing, no more. Stop.
No more. Stay away.
No more racing. But
find other pastimes, hobbies. Read a book. I don't read books.
You read the Cat in the Hat.
Is that a loose reference to the 50 Cent Floyd thing?
Yeah, because if I said the full thing, we'd probably get canceled. I know you would because
please don't say the full thing, Matthew.
That's what you would do. That's what you would do. All right, so
just talk about the race. Just keep covering the race. I'm already mad enough about what I got to talk about to close this show. You talk about the race.
Let me hurry up so you can get to that. William Byron would take the lead of this race. And then 15 laps after Ryan Blaney hit the wall, there was a caution because his car was stuck on pit road. So that would be the first caution of the day. Ryan Blaney is now on the playoff cut line, less than a race away. Defending champion, trouble with Team Penske. Doing good over in IndyCar, not so much in NASCAR. But I think they will get a turnaround eventually. Then William Byron would win stage 1 of this race. Stage 2, Christopher Bell would emerge, taking the lead, but a caution for our weekly Harrison Burton spin.
I think we're gonna be freed from the Harrison Burton hellscape next year.
Oh yeah, just hold your horses. You're gonna get to talk about all that. But then Christopher Bell would lose the lead to William Byron again, and then there would be new players in this race. Bubba Wallace and Denny Hamlin would show up at the front, battling for the stage 2 victory. But at the end of the stage, Christopher Bell would take the lead away from William Byron. Denny Hamlin and Bubba Wallace were not able to pass, and they would be passed by Christopher Bell. But another new player would emerge. Brad Keselowski was the fastest car in the field, and he was coming. No jokes out of you, pal. All right, so then in stage 3, we're thinking we're shaping up for the end of this race. We know rain's coming, but we don't think it's going to be that long of a delay. But Christopher Bell rockets out to the lead. Bubba Wallace has a horrible restart, falling outside of the top 10. Sorry, I had to cover that. It's in the script, man. And Jimmy Johnson has not spun out yet, and he did not spin out in this race. I just like to mention that Jimmy Johnson's in this race. But there's one person that we didn't talk about who has just gone into the top 15 because Kyle Larson did not make it to the Coca-Cola 600 due to him choosing to run the Indianapolis 500, which he's run the Coke 600 before. And I would have chosen to win the Indy 500 too. It's the biggest race in the world, and they put 2 years of work into this thing. But Justin Allgaier was subbing for Kyle Larson, but Kyle Larson just made it to the Speedway, and he is ready to hop aboard his 5 and pull a closer moment in NASCAR because that 5 car is fast. Because Justin Allgaier has really no experience in the next gen car, and he has that thing in 13th. Kyle Larson was going to rocket that thing to the front, probably battle with Brad Keselowski for the win. But then the rains came right before Brad Keselowski could pass Christopher Bell, and right before Kyle Larson could get behind the wheel of that 5 car. And after a 2-hour rain delay, Christopher Bell was named the winner. Will's going to get more on that rain delay in a second. But I want to talk about the Larson waiver situation real quick. While we're on that, a lot of people like Jordan Bianchi, who has been an idiot this week, saying that Kyle Larson does not deserve a waiver because he chose something else over NASCAR. He had scheduled to come to the race, and you guys gave Matt Kenseth a waiver in 2020 after missing the first 3 races of the season simply because he was retired. I'm sorry, Kyle Larson.
You guys gave Matt Kenseth a waiver because Kyle Larson said the N-word.
We weren't going to mention that he did that. Will, that's
Everyone knows that. That's why half of his fan base likes him. I like Kyle Larson, but that's why half of his fan base likes him. You been to Talladega recently, brother? Let me tell you something. They
Kyle
think he is a
Larson
martyr.
does not need to play iRacing ever
No.
again at the Mazda Raceway. He said it oopsie. That was in 2020.
Monza, you silly.
All right. Well, Kyle
Mazda
Larson.
is Laguna Seca.
Okay. Kyle Larson does deserve a playoff waiver. That was my point. I will get to the top 10 and then I will let you take this away. Um, Finishing in first place was Christopher Bell. Finishing in second place was Will. Trivia. Who finished second, Will?
Dude, I didn't get to watch the race.
I said it 3 times. Brad Keselowski.
I don't
Third
listen
place.
to you.
Third place was William Byron. Fourth place was Tyler Reddick, the better of the 2311 drivers today. In fifth place was Denny Hamlin. In sixth place was Ty Gibbs. In seventh place, scoring another top 10 finish, Chase Elliott. In eighth place was Ross Chastain, who is putting my whole him not making the playoffs thing to bed because he is pretty much safe on points at this point in time. Ninth place was Alex Bowman, who's doing the same thing. And in 10th place was Josh Berry, and I just figured I'd mention him so he gets some time here. 11th place was Bubba Wallace, who is back
I
above the playoff cut line.
I appreciate you doing that. And also, just to actually touch on the Larson thing, NASCAR wanted him to run the Indy 500. NASCAR stood to gain so much more for him running the Indy 500. It would be really dumb to not give him a waiver because also it's not like it was his decision alone. And it wasn't even just Hendrick Motorsports' decision. Like, this is a once in a lifetime type thing to attempt to go do. And again, it puts NASCAR on a greater platform. Um, Not giving Larson a waiver would be detrimental
Oh
to the
no!
sport. Um, Speaking of things that are detrimental to the sport, actually, the two things I'm going to talk about. I'll start off with NASCAR's decision to end the race due to effectively humidity. They said that it was too humid to dry the track and get racing before 1, I believe was their reasoning. Matt, we talked about this after the race, or because I was on the way to his house to watch the end of the race, and this announcement was made, and you kind of threw out the idea that some tracks have the rule that the race has to be over by 3 a.m. I don't know if is that like a track rule or is that like a
That's
local
a,
thing?
that's a track rule, but Charlotte does not have it because I completely forgot this. The NASCAR Xfinity race at Charlotte last year ended at 3 a.m.
Yeah. So no, the word from everybody, or at least a theory from everybody, like that was at the track that saw that it seemed like it was fairly dry. Uh, it just seems like it was a Fox decision. I
Yeah.
genuinely can't fathom why.
Well,
I
Elton
can't.
Sawyer came out and said that it was not fair to the track workers or something was his excuse. But like they had already been there in the pouring rain, it would have only been 2 more hours. I don't think they cared. I think this should be more of a decision about the fans that came out there to watch the race.
Yeah. Also, if it's so unfair to the track workers, pay the track workers correctly. Like you have them there to put on this show and help create this product. Pay them properly for their work if you think it's unfair. Like if you think that it's not worth it for them to stay, that doesn't mean call the race. So that's BS on Elton Sawyer's part. Let's just be real. This had to have been a network decision, but I don't know why. Which I mean, kind of like, do you just chalk it up as Fox being out of touch? Like I don't,
Well,
I
I'll tell
can't.
you, I had the television on after the race went off, and that paid programming on that engine that they were advertising for Mopar, it was
Mm,
just great television that I'm sure a whole 3 people watched.
yeah, I genuinely don't understand the decision. If it was a NASCAR decision, and if Elton Sawyer is being honest about why they called it, first off, say that because it was BS what we were told from the start about the humidity thing. Um, but I don't understand it. The other thing I don't understand is how we've gotten to this point. Um, so the
Well,
reason we
he did gymnastics, man. He got in the split.
no,
He ate
believe
the
it or not, I actually wasn't talking just
oh
about Tony Stewart's flexibility, which is very impressive. Believe me, I would know. Um, but
what?
I don't know how we got to this point. Okay, so we put off doing this episode solely because of the news that yesterday at 4 p.m. there was going to be a giant meeting at Stewart Haas, and they were finally going to inform the drivers and the teams what the future was going to be for them. And honestly, knew that didn't sound good. Going into the season, I could not have fathomed what would actually go on to happen. I am on record as having said that, oh, probably going to downsize. Um, but I could not have imagined that yesterday it was announced Stewart Haas is selling all their charters and they are ceasing operations after this year.
And the
Um,
Xfinity Series team too.
yeah, which was another theory that I started to build that, okay, well, maybe Stewart just wants to run an Xfinity operation, sort of like a Richard Childress, who Richard Childress dumps most of his resources into the Xfinity operation because he likes it more. Or even just like a junior situation where it's more profitable and he would just rather run an Xfinity operation than a Cup operation right now. But it's not even that. This team is fully shutting their doors. And now 4 charters are up for grabs. From what I understand, one is probably going to Front Row, one is probably going to 2311. One is probably going to Trackhouse, and one is kind of at large at the moment, from what I understand. Uh, I think me and Matt both think that that one's probably going to go to RFK. And we also have our early prediction of who is going to take over that car. I think we both think it's going to be Justin Haley.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
that's a really good prediction. Riley Herbst is another prediction just because of funding in my eyes,
yeah,
but
yeah, Herbst makes sense. Personally, if RFK ever did expand back to 4, I think Herbst actually would be a pretty good option for that fourth car, which I would
well, I
not
don't know if they were
have said
allowed to.
that. Well, that's another thing that we will get to. I'll let you carry that because that's another rumbling in the NASCAR industry. But wow, this thing changed on a dime. But this announcement has seemed more realistic over the coming weeks. With the Chase Briscoe thing about him lurking in the subreddits in the building to try and figure out what's going on. Ryan Preece being left out of team meetings, and even to an extent, Michael McDowell leaving Front Row was definitely a sign that something greater was coming uh, for the Ford camp. In my opinion, that should have sounded alarm bells. Uh, Yeah, this sucks. Just for me personally, next year there's going to be a NASCAR that doesn't involve Tony Stewart. But if we're being honest, NASCAR hasn't involved Tony Stewart in a long time. The two have been at odds for a long time. He felt shafted by the whole Eldora deal. He has felt shafted by not being able to make decisions within his own building. That the main one being wanting to go get Kyle Larson. But I mean, other ones such as wanting to hang on to Ryan Newman, eventually wanting to hang on to Kurt Busch, wanting to hang on to Daniel Suarez, not wanting Cole Custer, which I know that's all rumors, but come on, Tony has eyes, and it's there's no nepotism from Tony Stewart that got Cole Custer that ride and that chance. Which, by the way, Cole Custer is a talented race car driver. I had high hopes for him, but he had way too long of a leash. That I mean, the only other driver I can think of that's gotten a leash that long is Harrison Burton, which we'll talk about him in a second. Um, in recent years, I'm not even counting the Danica Patrick thing because that's a whole other world of having a leash. But um, so it really sucks because all of these drivers and teams are getting totally shafted by this move. Chase Briscoe is going from coming into the year. Like I know SHR has been struggling, but that is still a coming into the year was a major team in the sport, and Chase Briscoe had definitely the number one team and the number one car in that operation. I know the 4 car was the number one operation. I know the 4 car still had Rodney Childers this year, but there was no doubt in my mind that Chase Briscoe was going to get the best stuff this year. So he is going from that to probably Wood Brothers. It seems
Yes.
like Harrison Burton is probably out there. And look, I think this is a good move for Wood Brothers. I think Chase Briscoe is probably a pretty good fit there. But that sucks for him because, it wasn't too long ago that we really were buying into the whole, like, Chase Briscoe, he idolized Tony Stewart. He's going to carry on the legacy of the 14 car. Um, and he showed the flashes even this year. It's been up and down for Stewart Haas, but we've seen at least the growth from last year with really all of their drivers at certain points throughout the year, even the one that we're pretty certain is not going to have a Cup Series right next year. Ryan Preece is getting the worst end of this deal, certainly, because he is probably going to be out of the Cup Series entirely, which I think sucks so bad because I think Ryan Preece is a Cup Series caliber driver. I know maybe the results have not been there. He has definitely shown the flashes. I can't help but not see something in him. But and this sucks to say, but of the four, he has shown the least at the Cup level, and that's even including Josh Berry, who, Matt, I'll ask you, where do you think Josh Berry goes from here?
Well, I think Josh Berry is going to front row, and he will be joining Cole Custer and Todd Gilliland because it sounds like, from what I understand, I don't think Haas is going to be completely out of NASCAR. I think they will still be sponsoring Cole Custer at the Cup level, and if I had to assume, the Michael McDowell team will go over to Josh Berry.
Makes sense. And now the last driver free agent here, which is another person I want to talk about, is not even a driver. Matt, I think you know where I'm going with this, but let's talk about Noah Gragson real quick, or Noah Gregson, because apparently that is how you say his name. Noah Gregson, I actually think, is a pretty valuable free agent at this point because, again, has he been fully consistent this year? No, but Noah has shown enough to maybe validate some of the hype people felt around him during his Xfinity run of the 9 car. Uh, so, Matt, I'll go ahead and let you predict that one too. Where is Noah Gregson ending up?
So everybody's favorite rumor right now is that Austin Dillon's going up to the to be a suit, and that
Yeah,
Noah Gragson will be going to the 3 car because of the Bass Pro Shops connection. I do not think that's what's happening. I think if anybody's moving up, as much as you hate him, I think it's Austin Hill at RCR right now because Jesse Love's obviously going to be the better driver, but he just needs more time in the Xfinity Series still. So I actually think Austin Dillon's going to drive next year, if I had to guess.
yeah, I
But
do too. I don't think that ride's opening up anymore.
so I don't actually have like because I would say front row, but if front row gets another charter, then I think that's an option. If RFK gets the charter, I think they'd look at Noah Gragson, but I think Justin Haley might even be a better option. I think we both agree there.
Yeah,
But
I do.
obviously then that would open up a ride at Rick Ware, which obviously isn't the destinates that it used to be. I would love for with what Spire's building over there, signing Michael McDowell, for maybe them to boot Corey LaJoy for Noah Gragson, but I don't. That's not going to happen either because Corey LaJoy's under contract for next year. Um, but I think if I had to guess, I think Trackhouse is going to get a third charter, and that's where Zane Smith is going to go. And
Yeah.
then I think with the whole entire colleague, Trackhouse, merger, rumblings, whatever, I don't think they're going to merge. But I do think that because of this key thing, I think Trackhouse's input or Justin Marks' input over colleague is going to be what colleague does from this point on, because
Mhm.
SVG has kind of been promised a cup ride this year, and due to something we'll talk about in a second, it doesn't know. I don't know if Trackhouse can buy a 4th charter because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So I think SVG will take over the 16 car, and I say all that to say this: their funded car, which is driven by Daniel Hemrick, I think Daniel Hemrick will get booted down to the Xfinity Series, and I think Justin Marks will find a way to get Noah Gragson into the 31 car and effectively in a Trackhouse car, because I think 23, they're going to kind of be like what 2311 is for Gibbs, is what college is going to become for Trackhouse.
Yeah, personally, gun in my head. I think Noah's just gonna end up at Rick Ware. But could very much see your scenario happening too. And now the last person I want to talk about, and I don't know if anything has come out about him other than the tweets he put out yesterday, but what does this mean for Rodney Childers?
Well, he's going to have a job if he wants it. Um,
Absolutely. If he wants a job, I'm gonna make a bold claim here. Would Rodney Childers be the hottest free agent on the market?
yeah,
I
not
mean,
debating.
no,
It's like
because
Shaq and Nouse becoming a free agent like right after the championship run.
I don't know that we've ever seen this high profile of a crew chief free agent, at least in the era of just sports where free agency has become a topic. But yeah, like if you're any team out there that has a young driver who maybe it's just not clicking, or maybe you have a veteran driver who's fallen into a slump. Like, how do you not fall in love with the idea of like linking them up with Rodney Childers and going from there? Like, I'm not saying that Rodney Childers is a plug and play, immediately going to fix all your problems, but maybe. You know what I mean? He absolutely could do that. Rodney Childers, you're arguably the, I don't want to say the best crew chief in the Cup Series, because if we're being honest here, there's probably 5 to 7 names that all have a share of that title, but you have one of the top crew chiefs in the Cup Series that is now up for grabs. He doesn't have a tie to anybody. It'd be one thing if Kevin were still around and we're going to keep racing, then you would just figure that, oh, well, Rodney's going to go wherever he goes. But I don't think Rodney is necessarily attached to the hip to Josh Berry. You know
Well,
what I
I
mean?
actually, from what it seems, there's a real bond growing there with that 14. I think what'll happen is I said that Josh Berry's going to go to the front row and get Michael McDowell's sponsors. I think Cole Custer will actually get Michael McDowell's crew and or some of the Stewart Haas guys, because I obviously think some of the Stewart Haas guys are going to have jobs at front row, but
Yeah.
just naturally with them expanding. But I think the full 4 team is going to go to the 35 or 34 car for front row, if I had to
Yeah.
guess.
I think that's probably the plausible explanation, but I think we could see something crazy here with Rodney Childers. That's the last sort of aspect of the Stewart Haas thing I want to talk about. Other than, again, this sucks pretty bad, in my opinion, but it's just the way the sport is moving.
Um,
So
and
now another
before
way the sport is moving.
the do you okay? So I'm gonna ask you straight up: do you think it's good or bad for the sport if we make everybody have 3 teams?
I think okay, my gut reaction is to say no. I hate that. I know it's good for the sport if we do that, because let's be honest here. If that happens, probably getting a 4th OEM. I don't think NASCAR makes that decision to effectively free up more teams without thinking that they need to account for having a new OEM. And I would assume that that would be Honda. But I don't know. I don't like it because, of course, I don't. It's another piece of like the NASCAR that I grew up with being taken away. Like, of course, like we grew up in the NASCAR where you had 5, and then they shrunk
Yeah,
down to 4, and 4 still felt fine. Like, when you think of the iconic teams, you typically think of a 4-car lineup. I mean, obviously Hendrick is the one that comes to mind, right? Um,
and in this agreement, Hendrick and Joe Gibbs would be grandfathered in. I don't know how long that would last, because remember Roush was grandfathered into the 5-car thing, and then Jamie McMurray had to leave once his contract was up, or they had to pick somebody once his contract was up to be gone.
yeah, which again, I like. I understand that's the only way to enact a big rule change like that, because you can't just up and say like, all right, you got to sell one of your charters, get rid of one of your drivers, and liquidate an entire team. Like you. I know you can't do that, but I mean, I will say, I feel like it creates a little bit of an unfair uh or a competitive imbalance for a few years. I mean, I will say though, and you kind of mentioned this, like driver contracts typically aren't that long. Like, for instance, Hendrick Motorsports, Alex Bowman's is up in a couple years,
Yeah,
so I don't know. I don't really know how to feel about it. But that being said, how do you guys feel about it? Whether that be the potential 3-car restriction on teams, whether that be Stuart Haas shutting down, or even just the Coke 600 in general, whether that be the racing or the decision to call it. We'd love to hear your thoughts. The sport's in an interesting state of flux right now. It feels very similar to college football, where we really don't know what this thing is going to look like next year and beyond. But all we can do is hope for the best. So we thank you for watching The Shifter. I've been Will.
I'm Matt, and he finally smiled.